The following podcast contains subject matter that may be unsuitable for more sensible viewers. Views expressed here do not reflect that of any community that you would want to be a part of. Listener discretion is mandatory. Mama, what does trans mean?
No!
You say 3, 2, 1, and then you don't say start, and I'm just sitting there waiting for you to say start.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Well,
that's a form of edging.
Is that your kink?
Holy Christ!
I mean, one of them.
One of the many.
One of many.
One of many.
Yeah, kink singular. Like, it's 2019. People have more than one kink.
Get with the times. All right. Hello, welcome back to Tranifesto, the show that would like to remind you that trans women are women, trans men are men, and Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself. I'm one of your hosts, Madeline Hops. I am joined today by...
I'm Amy.
And I'm Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, Ree.
Jeffrey Epstein.
I'm normal.
Started a new
normal
life
Ree. Recording.
As a woman.
Recording from the even littler St. James Island in the Gulf of British Columbia.
What, like the Burrard Inlet?
Yes, that's the littlest St. James Island is actually the
tiny St.
Actually, Jeffrey Epstein is hiding on the McBarge.
Oh my god! No, that is the regional content.
Can we start that conspiracy theory?
That's some good CanCon.
I'd be for it.
Okay.
I mean, when's the last time you saw the McBarge?
If we get enough Patreon bucks, we should buy the McBarge and turn it into like a queer punk house.
No, what we can do is we can buy the McBarge.
How many days until it has a meth problem?
We can do a touring live show
on the McBarge.
Yes.
It's McBarge on the beach.
No, the McBarge. Like, I feel like the McBarge is the most iconic building in Vancouver, and like should be revitalized and made into like some kind of icon.
I mean,
take that the other Justin McElroy.
Yeah,
you don't know shit about what the most iconic building in Vancouver is.
Fuck. I think he did do a joke poll where he included the McBarge as one of the options.
That's true. I feel like we've gone too deep into VanCon.
No, let's go deeper.
Speaking of going deeper, rectal cavities and violence, today we're going to be reviewing the 2010 rape and revenge exploitation film Ticked-Off Trannies with Knives. There, how's that for a segue?
Yeah, so quick warning for this episode, we will be dropping a lot of T-bombs.
Tranny.
Because there's a T-bomb in the title of the movie, and it is also involved throughout the movie, and it is the subject of some of the controversies around the movie that we will talk about. And so if you don't like us saying tranny, don't listen to this.
Well, now that I'm allowed to say it, I don't want to.
Yeah, I only said tranny before I transitioned. And now it's just not got the same edgy flair to it.
It's not worth it. Yeah, so, content warning galore. You guys have been warned. So that being said, tranny.
Well, also, content warning for this movie. It's not, an easy watch. It's got a lot of trauma and violence and sexual violence.
It's a grindhouse exploitation film, so this entire genre is pretty much just, it's supposed to be hypersexual, hyper-violent, hyper-taboo. So I would say that if you don't like these films in general, just stay clear of this episode and maybe this movie entirely. But in the meantime, before we get into it, we're going to do a bit of a synopsis. So go ahead.
This movie follows a group of ostensibly transgender strippers, sex workers,
live performers. It's unclear.
They're hip-hop performers.
It's unclear what exactly their role is, what exactly they're doing at this bar, but, you know, they do strippery stuff.
So we have the characters, Bubbles Liquat, or Lickit? Bubbles Kilquat?
Clickot.
Bubbles Clickot.
Bubbles Clickot.
I can't read today. Pinky Latrim, Rachel Slur, which is the funniest name. Emigration. Emigration, the Latina character, and Tipper some more.
I love these names.
So
Is Tipper like the mama?
no, that was Pinky.
yeah.
Pinky's the mama. Okay.
Yeah.
I was not following the names very well.
No, they were a
okay.
little hard.
Bubbles is the main character, I
Yeah.
would say.
Yeah, Bubbles is the main character,
Yeah.
and we first see her with a big black eye that she got from, ostensibly from her ex, that we don't really know much about. So our beginning of the movie just follows them around in their stripper adjacent jobs in their little co-op.
And hang out at the bar after.
Yeah, their little like co-op family owned stripper bar, and the clubs that they hang out at. And just all
the mom and pop strip clubs that you may remember from the 1950s.
The good old days.
Yeah.
And honestly, this opening bit is really the best part of the movie. There's just a lot of banter.
This movie starts strong.
Shit talk between sex worker trans women. It's kind of fun.
It's kind of hard to summarize because it's all just witty banter between funny queers of the drag race adjacent culture. So to give you
women calling each other fat and clockable.
Yeah, exactly.
Etc.
Anyways, we'll get back to some of the good jokes, but 4 of them go off, or is it 3? No, 3 of them go off and meet up with some guy friends at a sketchy auto body shop or something.
Yeah, Nacho is one of them.
Yeah, they're called Nacho and Chewy.
No, Nacho, Chewy, and Boner. Anyways.
Yes.
So
I mean, they don't know they're meeting Boner. Boner
a
is
surprise.
Boner is
it's a surprise.
Boner
Boner
is Bubbles' ex that
has no reason to be there. It's no reason Boner.
So this is where we have our first sudden tone shift, where Boner comes out, confronts Bubbles, and we find out that Boner had.
No, stop laughing. This is where it gets really suddenly dark and serious.
Okay, sure. Oh.
I'm trying.
God forgive me for what I'm about to do. Boner had apparently assaulted and raped Bubbles after finding out that she was trans. Okay, we're out the other side of that one. And so Boner and Boner, Nacho, and Chewy try to they
Nacho
assault.
and Chewy are Boner's I guess Latino friends.
So
Boner is this greasy long hair white guy, and Nacho and Chewy are his thuggish Latino buddies who are just around to beat up trans women for him. And they decide to kill them, basically.
Yeah, they decide that they're gonna kill these 3 trans women. Luckily,
with a bat.
Yeah. So luckily, I think it's Pinky and Tipper show up and chase them off. Pinky, they picks up the baseball bat. It has a good trans woman of color beating the shit out of trans folks with the baseball bat moment.
We stand.
So
We stand.
Yeah, it's dope.
real tabby hours. But 2 of them don't survive, and then we skip ahead, and here's our next sudden tone shift, where they find first. Okay, so they have Bubbles in the hospital, and she wakes up and she can't talk, and they're trying to tell her that her friends are dead. But then it goes into a weird porn parody thing where there's a sexy nurse with a
it was Dr. Phil Lacio
and Nurse Connie Lingus. So it goes full porn parody for a second, while for some reason Bubbles can't talk.
Yeah, and they're making fun of Bubbles for having lost her voice when she was hate crimed.
And then the next little time jump, they're back at home, but Bubbles has a speech impediment that they're making fun of her for because again she got hate crimed in the skull.
So she has a speech impediment.
Yeah,
and that's the bit. They do this for 20 minutes.
Which I feel bad because one of the trans women is played by the drag queen Willem, which we'll get more to, but he's very funny, so I felt bad. So then there's
this scene where they go and learn martial arts.
I love that.
There's this random guy.
There's this random guy that we haven't seen, And then he says it's poo-poo platter night, bring all the girls. And then they take a wagon out into the wilderness. And, like,
they're
this,
all,
like...
doing, like... They're dressed in, like, geisha makeup, like, doing, like, insane cultural appropriation.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
like, also they had, like, a
guy
lesbian patch on their gi. Like, it was the weirdest thing.
Yeah, like, the weird guy who... Like, we had never seen before, but it's like, okay, I'm going to teach you kung fu. And he's just, like... doing, like, Confucius say and then saying, like, fucking random pop song lyrics. And also, I want to take a pause. There's this, like, stock Chinese music that plays in the background that is the intro music from the History of China podcast, which I like a lot. That was really jarring.
Yeah, I remember that.
Because it was like, bow, 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 bow. Welcome to the History of China. Anyways, so there's that. So then the next sudden tone shift is we're back in Bubbles' apartment.
So now they all know kung fu.
They all know kung fu. Apparently, we don't actually see them learn kung fu. We just see them, like, do weird shit and, like, make kind of racist jokes. So next sudden tone shift, we're back in Bubbles' apartment where we have a little bit of, like, a horror movie psycho, like, sneak up on her in the shower scene. But then she goes out.
Boner's back.
And then Boner's back, and we have this long scene of her getting tied to a chair, and basically him saying, like, showing her 3 cards and saying, like, well, each one of these is going to tell you a different way that I'm going to kill you. And he describes all of the horrific ways in which he's going to kill her, and then she picks the thing, and then she's, like, about to get, like, murdered in an incredibly brutal way that has been described for, like, what felt like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then...
I skipped through parts of it.
Yeah, it was very uncomfortable. And then the other characters show up and they have a weird-ass fight scene, like, jokey fight scene. And then there's another bit where all of the rapists and stuff have, like, weapons shoved up their ass, and then they have to, like, get the weapons out of their ass without accidentally triggering them. There's, like, a switchblade or a
like
gun,
a switchblade and a gun.
And then they get to threaten them to, like, see if they can make them flinch to make the things trigger, and that goes on forever. And then it feels like it just kind of ends.
Well, they just murder the shit out of them.
Oh yeah, they
Just
murder
with,
the
like,
shit out of them.
Horrific violence.
It's a similar ending to, like, Death Proof, which is that Tarantino film.
Yeah.
And this film very much, like, took from Tarantino.
It was definitely inspired from Tarantino's, like, grindhouse stuff.
If you think, like Jackie Brown, also too, like, the scene with the hospital and the nurse that comes in with that eye patch, that scene has almost like an homage to Kill Bill.
Yeah, there's Kill Bill in here too.
But also I know that it was, like, specifically influenced by I Spit on Your Grave, which is a good example of how to do a much better paced version of this kind of story. So, you know, not to reference better movies in your movie.
The thing about the ending that I found was that it didn't feel cathartic at all.
Yeah.
It just felt, like, incredibly violent and unpleasant.
It was just
and,
kind of
like,
miserable.
Miserable. And they were, like, making jokes and doing comedy, but it's, like, just so out there with, the level
they could do
of
corny,
horrific.
they could do cheesy like jokes in the grindhouse genre. Cheesy jokes and bad acting are part of it, but, like, there's a certain way to do good bad acting, and good bad line delivery, and they didn't really do that.
It's like what we've had our conversation about Chinese food. There's good, bad, bad, and good bad. And it's hard. It's really, really hard to be good bad. Like, and, like, the joke was, you know, like we're talking about, like, Chinese food is either good or bad good. Those are the only two goods, because you don't want good bad or bad. Wait, how did that go? I don't think I made
get
that
lost in your own
Never mind,
fucking system.
Can we cut that? That was bad.
Absolutely not.
That
Absolutely not.
I was making an inside joke that, like, only us knew, and I didn't explain it.
Yeah,
very
I
well.
would have cut it, but then you fucked up your own fucking system. So, no, it stays now. So I think, like, there's not much more to the plot. I mean, pretty much like you said, it just ends.
That was the movie.
Yeah.
It's the idea is to do, like, a revenge exploitation film where trans women get revenge on people who did hate crimes in this, like, cathartic.
Rape revenge flicks are one of those genres that a lot of people have opinions about, whether you can or cannot do that nowadays, whether it's, like, a dead genre or something. But I don't know. Like, I still think, like, obviously this movie, I didn't think it didn't do it well, but it didn't do it the worst I've seen. because there was a situation in which the main character Bubbles did get her revenge. So I mean, there could be kind of that, but I think because the third act was so incredibly boring, because it started out strong in my opinion, like the whole banter around the table,
Like, it was very, like, B-movie trashy, but it was fun.
Yeah.
Like, the beginning was kind of fun. I was like, this actually looks better than I thought it was
and
gonna
it was
be.
very Tarantino-esque too, as they were all going around the table and they were all doing like just bants. Like pretty much every Tarantino movie has that shot of just a bunch of people sitting around a table.
talking shit about stuff that isn't really part of the plot, and it's fun and interesting, and you get to know these people. But this movie was trying to balance doing that and also having this plot that it didn't really seem very committed to in 90 minutes, and it just did not
I mean,
work.
again, you can have like this didn't have to be plot heavy. I think back to the movie. Well, basically both movies, Death Proof and Planet Terror. No, it was Planet Terror more specifically that had this. The whole gimmick inside, like missing reel. So like part of the movie is missing. And I've seen that used well before in Planet Terror, where it's just like
Yeah, there was a bit of that.
and like in Planet Terror, the really cool part was they were all getting ready to defend the diner that they were stuck in, and they're like, "We're gonna get through this if we just stick together. Everything's gonna be okay." And then the screen goes black, and it says reel number 4 is missing, and then it comes back on, and just the place that they were supposed to be defending is on fire, and a bunch of people are like trying to like hold on to their arms and shit.
Yeah, it can be a funny bit, but in this movie, it felt like they just did that because they didn't have enough time to fit in the stuff. So they were like, shit, how do we transition? I guess we just don't.
Wanted to skip an act.
Yeah. And no, it's the pacing is just insane. It's like, let's spend 20 minutes basically just doing bits about her speech impediment. But oh fuck, we need them to learn how to fight. So let's like squeeze in like a 5-minute segment where they go off and learn kung fu.
Yeah, but like, they wouldn't even have had to have done that. Like if all of a sudden these women just all of a sudden knew kung fu somehow, I would have been fine with that in this film. Because it was just because everything else.
If it just leaned into being absurdist, but it didn't.
Yeah, and also too, one of the other things that it kind of tripped over itself was the difference between cross-dressers and transgender characters. This was
more specifically drag queens and like trans people.
Yeah, sorry, drag queens. My apologies.
This movie has no idea what it's trying to do, because they're like it's ostensibly about trans women, but they're all in drag the entire movie. Now, most of them are played by actual trans women. One of them is played by a drag queen, but they're all dressed in drag and sort of doing the high femme caricature drag stuff the whole film. And so it's like they're trans women, but they're also not.
Yeah, and I mean, it was directed and written by Israel Luna, who is, first off, that's a hell of a name.
A couple quotes that kind of reveal, I think, the fact that this film and the director are just confused. At one point, Israel Luna, the director, is like, we were just playing around and someone said I should do like a revenge flick, like an exploitation movie with drag queens, and I thought that would be so much fun. And then later he's like, I wanted to do something more modern, and I thought, whose story do you never see on the news these days? It's not gay men, it's transgenders. And so it's like, I really don't know to what extent the director/writer really understands.
Yeah, I think that was the thing. Like, it was like one of those ideas, like trying to be woke but failing with the execution horribly.
And also, there are a lot of drag queens who are trans women who are drag queens, but also
for sure.
I feel like just based only on this, the types of trans people that he knows are trans women who are drag queens, which will color if you're trying to make something for your friends who are trans and all of your trans friends are drag queens, this is the kind of thing that you would make.
Yeah. And like he talks about how he's like close with some drag queens and trans women in Dallas and have them in his projects, and I assume some of them are the actresses, and like that he has, quote, this fascination and love for them.
that is
lots to unpack there, buddy.
A lot of men have a fascination and love for trans women.
Yeah, we have special names for them. By the way, Israel Luna.
They're in my DMs.
Israel Luna. I just took a look at their Twitter. We have more followers, all three of us, than they do.
Woo! God bless.
So I'm just saying,
Israel Luna, come on the pod.
We too could probably get a film into the Tribeca Film Festival if we want to, which this film was a part of. By the way, it got entered into Tribeca.
He said, "I'm the first person to include drag queens, transgenders, transsexuals, and transvestites in all of my projects."
I don't think he was the first, but
No, it's really bad. We'll talk about the director
Yeah.
more, but
Well,
it says something about the fact that he really just doesn't quite understand what he's doing with the characters' identities.
yeah.
They're ticked off trannies with knives, and I think in his mind they're just trannies, and they're all kind of just trannies in his
Yeah.
head, and they're like, I'm gonna do a film about the trannies.
Well,
He did it, and I mean, he sure did.
yeah. I mean, like, I wanted to like this movie, and I would,
Yeah, I did too.
This style of movie, I would love to see more of. I would love to see nothing more than like pulpy, shitty. If it was like Ticked Off Trannies with knives, but it was actually done by, like, say, for example, a queer director. This could have been really fucking good, but it wasn't. Like, just by a film by itself too. Like, the beginning, strong; middle, very confusing and muddle. Like, felt like kind of a setup.
Yeah.
And then the last third of the movie was just like, it was two scenes.
A catastrophe.
Yeah, it was two scenes. It was basically her getting, like, stalked and, like, threatened, and then the tables getting turned, where they are doing the threatening. Which, again, like, that could have been cool ending. That could have been, like, absolutely, like, a great revenge part. But it was
just disorienting.
because again, it's a grindhouse film. Its expectations for what it has to provide or what it has to justify is exceedingly low. You can have terrible acting, you could have terrible fights, and that's a great thing for an exploitation film.
Yeah, and you can mix comedy with trauma and violence, and you can mix, like, campiness with serious themes, and that isn't something you can't do, and it can be done very well. But this failed, and, like, there's so much tone issues in this movie and insensitivity, and it just doesn't know how to balance those things at all.
It felt weird. I think one of the reasons that it felt kind of unsatisfying at the end, because the setup is a pretty serious and, like, nasty hate crime, and it's resolved by one of the trans women pulling a fucking mall ninja sword out of her afro, and
that was so good. Again,
like, it was good, but it, like, does that resolve the serious hate crime? Does that give you a satisfying resolve to that?
Yeah, I mean, it's the fact that it is such an insanely heavy theme. Like, it's really rough territory to try to play with, and it could be done, but they did not do it very well.
Yeah, it's high risk.
It's like, let's do a movie about the most stigmatized group in the world, and, like, this, like, incredible brutality that they face.
Yeah, this is something that, like, especially, like, working class, like, trans women of color have to deal with in a very, very, very serious way. And, like, I would be, perhaps, maybe because we're the wrong audience, because I would be kind of interested to see how, a trans sex worker of color would take this. Like, would it be sort of cathartic and, like, nice to see that? Because,
would it just be insensitive?
Yeah, because when I watch something like I Spit on Your Grave, I'm like, yeah, this woman got raped, and then she goes, like, person by person and kills every single one of her rapists in, like,
it's beautiful,
exceedingly horrifying ways, and it's great. Like, but I and that's cathartic to me. I can see how that wouldn't be to other people. So maybe we're the wrong audience.
It's the fact that it didn't acknowledge the seriousness of it. Like, the response, that's what it is. The response by the characters wasn't serious enough to justify the gravity of the crime. Like, in I Spit on Your Grave, it's very much highlighted that what happens to that girl is a terrible thing. It's it's focused on that, so you have an establishment, but the resolution is satisfying to the people who watch those films because she fucking murders them.
Yeah, when she finds out that, like, two of her friends were killed in this horrifying, like, hate crime that left her brain damaged, it's immediately followed up by fucking Nurse Cunnilingus coming in to break the tension.
Yeah, and let's joke about, like, fucking Dr. Phil Lacio. Like, it jumps back and forth so hard between the incredible gravity of hate crime violence and the just totally detached from reality campiness, and it just comes off as incredibly insane.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like using humor to deal with the, like, trauma the way that most people do.
It almost feels like it's dismissing it.
Exactly.
Or, like, making light of it. Like, the fact that they, like, do all these jokes about her lisp.
After she gets it.
That she develops from being hit by a baseball bat in the head by her rapist who did it out of like transphobic
Yeah, like
hatred.
the whole joke there is like Bubbles. Oh, is this Bubbles? Who's Bubbles? No, my name is Bubbles. Like it didn't. It just wasn't.
it is
It
bad.
wasn't fun. But like
Yeah.
a lot of the humor in this film as like a standalone though was pretty funny. Like the names are funny. The fact that like every once in a
Yeah.
while they would like just quote like they would spoken word song lyrics.
Which is something that we do
Yeah.
all the
Oh,
time.
totally. And there's lots of things like there's lots of stuff that like isolated it just to that moment. That is objectively funny. But like as a,
Do you remember the bit where they're going and they're talking about like where they're talking about why you're like, oh, my partner's straight. It's like, is he though? Why? It's okay, fine, maybe he's bi. Why are all bi guys like never looking for women? And then like, okay, fine, if he's gay, then what does that make us? And then they kind of go off. It's like, where the bodies of women, the genitalia of a man, the sassiness of a black person, the style of a celebrity. We're the solution. Which, like, problematic jokes and all feels like, a modern, like, ContraPoints type joke.
Yeah, and like they did have fun with that at times, and definitely the banter was the strongest part of the movie.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, because it
Even though
felt
some people would
organic.
just find it objectionable, but it felt organic.
Yeah.
And it did kind of feel like how you and I talk.
Yeah, like, the problematic jokes even felt natural to the characters that they were playing.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I think this is a good example of, like, there is potential for, like, you could do, for people that say, like, you can't do offensive humor anymore, like, you could do something, like, not this film, but you could do something like this film existing in a grindhouse universe with that kind of stuff, and it could be wildly, I mean, the name of this as well, like,
It could be
if this
dope.
was a good film,
Yeah, and honestly,
with the
like,
same title, if this is a good film, if it had the same title, but it was a good film, then alls would be forgiven. Like, I would be like, this is a great, like, movie. I would love to watch this.
especially if it was directed by a trans
Oh, that would
woman.
be amazing.
Like,
Yeah.
but
Okay.
instead it just comes off as this really insensitive way for cis guys to say tranny when they talk about
Okay,
them.
everybody go sign up to our Patreon, and we're going to put a goal where we're going to direct the good trans grindhouse movie.
Holy shit, that would be awesome.
On the McBarge.
On the McBarge.
Oh, fuck.
The McBarge is going to be the set and the studio for our exciting new experimental trans grindhouse horror film about revenge.
Yeah, Ronald McDonald will play the rapist. And
Oh my god, no, it's set in Expo 86. Ronald McDonald does like a hate crime. And then
So wait,
like, at night, it's like the victim sneaks onto the McBarge to murder him.
So wait, you ladies are renting out the Science World Dome for what exactly?
But that would be awesome, though. Like, just think about it. Like, it's just like, it's somebody dressed up as Ronald McDonald, and like, you could do terrible lines with that.
God, yeah.
You could have one moment where, like, the girl in the show like catches Ronald McDonald lookalike and like goes to cut off his dick and says something like, "I have your all beef patty now." Like, there's so many terrible jokes you could make.
Well, you could do like Ronald McDonald drag.
Oh my!
Like a Ronald McDonald makeup inspired
Yes.
drag look. Like there's so much room for play.
Yeah,
God, we need to do it. Give us money.
yeah, please.
Money,
If there are any like
please.
rich director people listening to this, just like, throw us. It's Praxis really to give us.
podcast looking for sugar daddy and producer.
Well, I think that one of the things that we should also touch on is the response to this film by the Gay and Lesbian Alliance Against Defamation,
Yes.
because they
We were not the only people who have beef.
yeah, we're also not the only person who've seen this film, surprisingly.
Weirdly
That is
enough.
shocking.
Yeah, no, for sure. So GLAAD, basically, in the 2010 Tribeca Film Festival, the film was submitted to be viewed, and GLAAD was given a advanced copy of it to review, and surprisingly,
And they loved
yeah, no,
it.
they were 100% okay with it.
Yeah, they completely got the humor. They were all about it. Noted comedy lovers, transgender activists.
Yeah. I mean, Okay, so I mean, like, where do we begin with this? Is because there's a couple different facets of this. I mean, number one, and I would like to bring up right off the bat, is the hot topic looking motherfucker that's on the Wikipedia page that they showed as the protest at the Tribeca Film Festival.
Hell yeah, it was a look.
Is a look and a half. We'll post it on the Twitter.
Oh yeah, no, it is something like trans Avril Lavigne. It is.
No, she's beautiful.
I loved it.
Yeah. Like, I feel like back in, like, the early 2000s, like, every single trans woman just dressed like that casually, and now only 90% of trans women dress like that casually.
Yeah, now it's just you.
There's also Welcome to the Projection Podcast.
Look, okay, like, 2017 maybe. Maybe you could make that joke. I went through a lot of work. I'm basic now, and I'm happy where I am.
Yeah, you went to Forever 21 with me once. So GLAAD did not like the movie.
No, GLAAD did not like the movie. And I guess the thing too is like you know when somebody makes a half good, half terrible point. I believe it was the director who said something along the lines that GLAAD is a bunch of white liberals who don't have any fun, which is...
Yeah, it was basically this idea that GLAAD just wants to elevate, like, Oscar Beatty, like, dour dramas about trans people played by, like, cis famous actresses.
Which they're not wrong.
Like, has less interest in, like, having genuinely unproblematic stories and more in, like, respectability politics. And now, he's not wrong.
Yes.
Not completely,
I don't think that is fully incorrect, but also he was doing it cynically.
Yeah.
Like, it was just his way of deflecting criticism.
He was
and
right
trying to
for the
make
wrong reasons.
Trying
Yeah.
to make his genuinely problematic and appalling, in some respects, movie seem like the woke, edgy vanguard, and GLAAD's, like, objections as these, like, stuffy, out-of-touch activists.
Yeah, because I mean, like, I agree.
And
I agree with the fact that, like, I can't remember the last time GLAAD was heavily promoting anything that wasn't a fucking drama. Like, give me a comedy, give me something else.
Yeah, but also, I mean, didn't they also shit on Girl, rightfully?
Yeah,
for similar reasons.
GLAAD is a true neutral. In the D&D alignment chart, they are. I would say they're neutral. They do a lot of good, and they do a lot of gatekeeping to make sure that the right movies do get called out. But sometimes they are a couple stuffy liberals who shop at Whole Foods.
But that said, I don't think their criticisms of this were exactly
No.
wrong.
I agree with their criticism of this entirely.
They said, quote, "The film, its title, and its marketing misrepresent the lives of transgender women and make light of grotesque exploitative depictions of violence against them." Which, yeah, true.
No.
Also, like, I feel like the title can be called out a bit in that, like, yes, you can call a movie Ticked-Off Trannies with Knives, and I will look at that and think that's dope as fuck. But when you are, like, a cis guy director, and mostly the people saying Ticked-Off Trannies with Knives are, like, cis reporters.
That's the problem, Like,
film media people. Like, it's really just an excuse for cis people to say tranny.
Yeah, because I genuinely, like, I agree with you. Like, this title by itself is fucking awesome. I love that. If I ever made a film, there's a very good chance I would have gone with a name like this.
I think we put this movie on the list, like, a year ago just because we thought, wow, it's called Ticked-Off Trannies with Knives. That's dope.
Yes. And so, like, and that is, like, you know, I mean, that is part of the problem. The interesting thing, too, is that the director was actually confused as to why he got a negative reaction, which I think is really funny.
Yeah.
Which, you know, like all people where, you know, I was just making a joke. I was just being edgy. Why doesn't anybody understand my humor?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, the director did, like, a whole beef with GLAAD and, like, made some incoherent YouTube video that I couldn't finish. Beefing with GLAAD and making fun of them for being stuffy. But, like, he also, like, he made comments about the title. He said, quote, "I don't feel that ticked off pre-op transitioning M2F sexually reassigning women with knives would be as appropriate." Which feels a little bit...
Which, again, that is objectively funny. Like, a little...
Actually, yeah, that also...
That would be even funny.
Especially in 2019, I think that joke would go over, like, significantly better than, like, Ticked-Off Trannies and Knives every day.
Yeah, no, that
he said,
that title's so good.
He said, remember, it's a cis guy saying this, "I see the word as very empowering, representing a strong individual that is extremely comfortable with who they are with no apologies. A word that is catchy and positive. quote, hot tranny mess is the shiz.
Okay, well, now
But mainly it's short for
all right, I take it
trans-
back. Everything about this is terrible now. That director just fucking ruined it.
That just made me
What
feel
a
so
nightmare of a man.
tired.
Oh, it's
Like,
it's exhausting to laugh.
I feel like I have said shiz unironically in the past like 48 hours, but still that's just because
Yeah, but
I'm different.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
bleep that out every single time you say it on the podcast.
Shiznit.
Just every fucking time.
you
Just
should.
shit.
We're not
No,
going to
no,
bleep
no, no,
tranny
no,
anymore,
bleep.
but we will bleep shiz.
bleep out every use of the word shiz and like completely bleep it
No,
out.
absolutely. So yeah, there's speaking of this movie came with a lot of negative baggage as well. It wasn't very well reviewed, except for, and if you look at the Rotten Tomatoes score, which is given an 80%, and Google users gave it an 84% like, which is incredible. Yeah, I guess one of the last questions I'd put out there is, so like we agree that a film like this can exist and be a positive thing.
Yeah, the concept is cool.
Yeah, and also nothing is sacred. Like anything can be made fun of, but there's a bar, and for some things the bar is just so high it's almost not even really worth to try to clear it.
Exactly. But so with that keep in mind, and because we've been doing this podcast long enough, so it's now time to put up or shut up, I would ask both of you, and I'll ask myself the same question, is what would you either change to this film to make it work, or how would you do your own transgender, what would be your ticked-off tranny with knives, I guess is my question.
I think that it would have to be, again, I'm going to go back to I Spit on Your Grave, because I feel like that works better, especially if you made it with an ensemble cast. Just having the inciting incident happen maybe earlier in the story, so we're not kind of spending all these time like listening to banter and then sudden tone shift to the serious shit. Like maybe start it a little bit earlier and then sort of follow the characters, like, and do split up the revenge like a cut through like 3 or 4 times throughout the film, and then have like let us get to know these characters throughout it, and then spread out maybe the jokey parts throughout of it. Maybe have the characters maybe even like work through the shit with humor in a more organic way while they're doing it, rather than just stopping to make a comedy bit and then going back into incredibly uncomfortable situations.
Yeah. Like I was gonna say, like, I feel like you can do the comedy, but you need to do it, I guess, sort of more like Tarantino does it, where it's like the comedy comes from the characters and it comes from their relationships and the way they talk and the way they interact with one another. And so like the beginning, where it's just trans women like bantering with each other and talking shit, was genuinely funny because it didn't feel like the movie was making the joke and forcing it. It felt like the characters were funny people.
Yeah, exactly.
Who were being funny together. And so when you have that, you can have a movie with intensely serious themes and a movie that actually feels serious in terms of the plot, if it's funny characters who are funny and irreverent, who exist within a grounded real world with consistent tone and consistent rules. And so like I would play the plot off and like the setting and even just like all of it more serious, but give more space for the characters to be funny.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. I think our idea with the McBarge was already pretty solid. I would say like my big critiques with this is just like, first off, like it'd be cool if these were like actual like characters that were trans. Like, I mean, they were hypersexual. They were drag queen-esque more than I saw them as trans. I thought
I mean that
was a big problem for me.
Definitely be actual trans.
Yeah,
women.
it's just like it was distractingly like what who are these people? And they kind of clear it up, but it's still not that great. I would say just somehow making the gravity of the sexual assault bigger, and also the revenge sweeter. So like, for example, I think it'd be great, I don't know, like fucking she has she all of a sudden pulls out a Gatling gun, just like a giant one, and just like keeps shooting, and it like their body explodes like it's those cheap 1980s special effects. Like that stuff would be cool. So I mean, like I would definitely love to see more grindhouse films. I mean, go watch Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez's grindhouse films, because those were absolutely fantastic. If you want to watch a revenge flick, even though it wasn't sexual assault, go watch Death Proof by Tarantino. Like, it's basically 4 women get revenge against the guy who tried to kill them, and the ending, even though it's short, feels satisfactory because it has this build up to like great revenge. There's this point in the film where the tables get turned, and all of a sudden the villain is the one being hunted by these girls. Like, I guess that's the thing, is it's like I would have liked to have seen more. And even like, I understand this is a low budget movie at only $300,000 US. I just would have liked to have seen more of a...
That's not even enough money to buy the McBarge.
I would have just liked to have seen more.
No amount of budget can buy a decent script.
Yeah.
Another thing, another note on representation, I would say, is I can see a movie like this being good where the trans women also do drag.
Yeah.
Because there are lots of trans women who do drag. And it provides a neat context for the characters. It positions it in a very like specific space and setting, which is cool. But when you have a trans woman who is doing drag, she does drag and then she is a trans woman, and she has a different character because she is actually like a person and a woman. She is not just her drag persona the entire time.
Especially like if you look at the main actress's like IMDb page, like she looks like just an she's a very cis-passing, like incredibly normal, like trans woman, not in drag. Like I feel like deserved better than the looks that this movie gave her.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You know what? I just had a thought. You know what would have fixed this film? If they had gotten the writer or researchers for the assignment. If they had those people fucking look over this script, could you imagine? Like, that would have fixed it.
It's just combine the two. I mean, the assignment is kind of another trans revenge book.
It is, and it's revenge for being trans, but it's like if they like that level of wokeness that showed up in the assignment, which is like, wow, they obviously talked to some trans people. Like, that would have almost saved this movie.
Confusing and disorienting amounts of research.
Yeah. It had no right to exist in that movie. That movie, by the way, still one of the best representations I've ever seen.
And if I want to take like a quick like pause on that, because how do we feel about, so most of the cast, as far as we know, because it's like fair indie film, kind of hard to find details on the people. One of them was played by Willem, the drag queen. How did we feel about a drag queen playing a trans woman?
I mean, I would prefer not, generally speaking.
Well, to put, and also to create like a contrast, Willem also played a transgender woman in the show Nip Tuck. How would you feel about like that, where it's an isolated character played by a drag queen, versus this, where it's one drag queen in a cast of trans women?
If I had to do like on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being like a cishet dude doing it and 10 being a trans woman doing it, I would probably say I'm okay with this on about a 3 out of 10. That it's at least someone who is queer, so that's a little better. But like it is a minute improvement. Especially since, like, I looked it up the other day. There are lots of trans actresses. There's lots of trans actors who need work. So I don't...
It's like, give them
exactly,
work.
give them that. Or give them Ko-fi tips, because that's also a thing.
Yeah. Another note that I have for that is, like, I do feel like it could be possible to explore the fact that in certain spaces, in certain communities, there is some gray area in terms of what identity someone has who does drag. Mm-hmm. Like, not all drag queens are either...
I feel like there's a lot of gray area.
Like, not all drag queens are either cis men or trans women. And so you could have, like, a drag queen who fits in that gray area as part of a team of trans women. But, like, I feel like they don't need to play a trans woman in that case. They can just play that. They can play that identity and have that be part of the cast of characters. Mm-hmm. Which would actually be kind of cool to see explored properly.
Yeah. No, I agree. So yeah, that would be the 2010 Ticked-Off Trannies with Knives. Just double checking, is there anything else we want to cover? I think we got everything. We're about...
Ticked-Off Trannies with a podcast.
Yes, Ticked-Off Trannies with podcast.
Also, hold on. Quickly, broke, chicks with dicks, woke, wives with knives.
God, I found that academic paper that someone wrote about this movie.
Oh yeah,
where
please.
they talk about how
Highlights.
it's this peer-reviewed academic film paper about this movie where they talk about
The conservatives are right. Education is a joke.
they talk about the positionality of the movie within a broader tradition of like retrospective filmmaking and also like transgender storytelling, and they talk about the nuance of the use of the word tranny, and it's like I found it really obnoxious and bad. Like I don't like their argument, but there's this one bit where they talk about how the knives are like phallic. They say Bubbles, Pinky, and Rachel are coming with their knives as weapons and taking back their knives as penises at the same time, since it was precisely their knives, as in the pre-op body,
oh my god,
that caused them harm in the first place. Bubbles was raped by Boner
God damn it.
because he did not know that she was trans until he presumably saw her penis. Now she takes back her body through her knives, penis and weapon, and uses both to annihilate him.
Yeah, have you ever wanted to say tranny so badly that you've gone to higher education just so you can write a fucking essay or dissertation on Ticked-Off Trannies with Knives?
God, I love queer theory.
We are a fucking joke.
Just like cishet academics for using the word tranny because
just really wanted to say that word. All right, well, yeah. So yeah, that's the 2010 film. Fucking Ticked-Off Trannies with Knives.
What a fucking clusterfuck.
It is a.
What a nightmare.
It has a film that, again, I really wanted to like it. I was on board. Again, like Amy said earlier, the fucking title was the reason we wanted to look at this. Like, I'm 100% on board with this, but it just failed to deliver a satisfactory grindhouse and representation experience.
Yeah.
So I would say,
Tragic.
yeah, just fucking skip it.
0 out of 10, a tragedy.
Yeah. Like, or if you are going to watch it, I would say watch it up until the hospital scene and then just turn it off. Pretend like there's not even an end to it. Like up to that point, it's a pretty okay.
Fucking hospital scene. It honestly felt like a porno. Like it just like they were doing a porno bit. Like they
and again, porno bits and that would have been hilarious, but time and place, there's still a delivery that you have to work on in grindhouse genre. I think that's about it. I'm Madeline Hops. I'm at rabbit_is_dead on Twitter and Twitch. I just work on editing podcasts and trying to draw a comic.
I'm Amy at Lavender Ashtray. I always do this thing where I don't have anything to say, and I think it's actually awful that we do this.
Yeah, I was just saying we should can this.
I'm Ricarder at RHICRTR. Fucking, I don't know, nothing.
All right.
Go
nothing.
rate us on iTunes.
Yes, please, if you are, just a couple.
Rate us on iTunes. Give us money.
Give us Patreon money so we can make a better movie than this.
Oh, 100%. If we should actually.
We can make a better movie for half the price. I swear to God.
Yeah, no, I think dead serious. That should be one of our Patreon goals is to try to make up
the McBarge.
The big barge. Just that. Just a reminder, we have a Patreon. If you could subscribe to that does help. Also to
the McBarge.
Deep Press Prints. For hosting our merchandise, and also to if you even if you got nothing, that's totally okay. We've all been there. Just go ahead if you could and rate us highly or give us an upvote on fucking YouTube.
Yeah, it's very helpful.
It is, and it helps get it out there. Right now, we are still doing well at 5 stars on the Apple Music Store, which is great, and we are all.
But you should give us like 5 better stars by adding stars.
Hack into
Also,
Apple
like,
systems.
It helps with our listenership, but it also makes me feel really, really good in my heart.
Yeah, so if you could go ahead and rate us 5 stars, that would be great. It always helps. And thanks again for all your lovely comments that you've been sending us on Twitter as well, and all the suggestions for films. We heard from Mrs. Doubtfire the other day about doing that film. So I think that would also be something we should do in the future as well, because I like that film.
We obviously are.
Yeah, I liked that film, and so I'm just emotionally preparing for hating it. Thank you all again for joining us, and we'll see you all again in a week. Okay, bye!
Bye!
Bye-bye!